As I was saying, I didn't expect to get a chance to talk again, but it's the same subject, but a slightly different topic. I guess last time I got up and thanked you all for coming and then complained about the government. I want to thank you again. And I want to talk about the pond back there. When we first got here, there's a ditch that runs up there, an irrigation ditch. And there was a leak in the ditch because the ground is fairly porous. And the ditch is on about 3 months out of the year. And while the ditch was on, there was a wet spot down there. It was from the leak. And we thought, well, let's take that wet spot and turn it into a pond. Well, it turned out that the wet spot was a wetlands. Never mind that it was caused by a leak from a ditch that was man-made, that was only turned on 3 months out of the year. And when we put a pond in, we destroyed the wetland. Now, I know we made the wetland wetter, but nevertheless, we destroyed the wetland. And I believe it was the Corps of Engineers needed to get involved, partly because we're dealing with the navigable water system, which is the Pocoja River back here. Now, I don't know how they come up with the definition of navigable, but when it's in flood, you could possibly get a kayak down it. And so we put our pond in, and they said, well, since you destroyed the wetland, you need to replace the wetland that you destroyed. And so over on that side of the pond, we had to excavate a special area that was just the right depth of water, and then we had to fill it with just the right amount of soil, just the right kind of soil that was similar to the area of the wetland that we had destroyed by putting in the pond. And I guess you guys know probably that now in Congress they're considering changing the regulatory powers of Washington from navigable water, and they're just going to take the navigable out, and it's just going to be water. And this sort of, it kind of gets me back to thinking about how to fight these things. I had well, in the early 90s I was living in Iowa, and we were living in the rural county. The city was zoned, but the rural county wasn't. And they were talking about zoning the county. And I thought, well, this isn't a good idea, because right now if you want to do something with your property, you just do it, and it's assumed you have permission. But with zoning, you would have to assume that anything was not okay unless it was permitted. And I pointed out to the people there, like, look, this is a big deal. They're going to change our government, and they're going to take your rights away. And we actually managed to stop zoning. And partway through the thing, the people that were involved with the zoning said to me, Joel, you got to, you think about this a lot. You got a good head for this. We'd like you to go on our board that drafts the ordinance, because we think you could get a better ordinance. And I said, well, I'm not interested in making a good ordinance, because first of all, it can be changed any time, but second of all, that's a right you shouldn't have, to tell people what they can do with their property in a preemptive way. And it kind of relates back to this navigable water. If you have a little fire, you can run over here and stamp it out, and you can run over here and stamp it out. Or you can say to the government, I'm sorry, but you don't have a right to set a fire here. Because what you'd be doing is all the time running after this little fire and that little fire. And some people are very good at that, and some people, they have the knack for that. They like to keep track of the fires. For me, I don't have that kind of temperament. I don't have that kind of patience. I'm not interested in going after one little fire after another little fire. I want to go for the brass ring. And for me, the brass ring is saying to our government, listen, you don't have the power to do that. And I hate to say it right now, I'm looking at the United States, and it's looking like Rome. It's gone from a republic into an empire. And for me, the brass ring, like, I'd like to keep this country intact, but I look at it and I say, how are we going to shut Washington down so they don't do this? The state sovereignty movement, I think, is really good. But when I hear people talking about secession, I'm not going to say, that's a terrible idea. It's almost like if you had a secession and then you came together in a better union. And this is crazy talk, except that you go back 200 years to 1775, and so in 1776, and that's when you hear that kind of crazy talk. Now, I don't have an answer as far as how we're going to get back to liberty, but the situation where you can't put a pond in without making a swamp that was caused by a leak in a ditch is, now that's just an example, but there are a lot. We homeschool, we did home birth, we've got dairy goats. We can't sell our raw milk. I mean, when someone can't sell food that they produce to their own neighbor, what's going on? This is not the way this country is supposed to be. And I'm just hoping that we can get it back on track. And for me, back on track means being able to sell food to your neighbors with no interference, being able to go get a job wherever you want to. Just, hey, I'd like to work for you. You can pay me what you want, and I'll work however it works. So I think we've got a long road to hoe, but that's where my mind is, and I'm really excited to see this many people coming together. And I think that we're not identical, but we've got similar goals. Thank you.